This is All the Right Marketing, a publishing podcast by Cardinal Rule Press. Now, here's your host, Maria Dismondy.
Welcome to All the Right Marketing, where we talk with business owners and industry leaders about marketing their programs and their products, which are primarily books. Our guests share tips that help anyone who loves a book, whether you are a librarian, bookseller, author, publisher, or an aspiring writer. The truth of the matter here is that the advice coming out of these conversations and the inspiration is for creatives across industries. Today, I have our guest, Hans Kullberg, who is a bereaved father. His desire to create a legacy for his daughter led him to write his book that he will be talking about today in order to spread Aviva's love and joy to all children that his daughter never got to meet. So he takes the lessons from those books and he's able to share through underline meeting. So welcome today, Hans.
Thank you, Maria. It's awesome to be here. Thanks for having me on your show.
Absolutely. Let's start at the very beginning, which actually is a song from The Sound of Music. Let's start at the very beginning. Okay. Anywho, yes. It's too early for you to go into singing. Hans, what is your background in before you wrote this book? What were some of the things that you were dabbling in?
Yeah, before I answer that, I was going to say the hills are alive with music. The hills are alive with music.
I love it. You know what I'm talking about.
I love singing. We're a singing family. We sing. We love that movie, Sound of Music. But you asked about my background. So my background has been in entrepreneurship, has been really using data for good and really trying to figure out ways to actually help people in general, whether that's through education or healthcare or anything else. That's really what my background is. So it's really not writing children's books, but I can talk about how I came into writing children's books. So yeah.
Absolutely. So how long ago did you have the idea for this book? Let's get into the hard part of this conversation, which I'm a mother of three. So this is definitely, I'm sure, the hard part.
Yeah. So I've always wanted to write a children's book. We have 4 children now. And even, from the very beginning, from the very first child, I always loved creating, different stories at bedtime, just really off the top of my head, whether it's about flying horses or unicorns or dragons or cars. There's always, a creative element in creating these stories. And I never really had that push to kind of put me over the edge and kind of say, I'm going to put my pen to paper and actually write a book. That was until my third child, my second daughter, Aviva. She had a very, I would say, traumatic life. And she had a few different episodes throughout her life where her heart rate went down. She had bradycardia. She also had lethargy and apnea. And we saw hundreds of doctors under the sun. Nobody could figure out what she had. Her first episode was at 9 days old. But she had about 5 different episodes throughout her life. Unfortunately and tragically, on the 6th episode, Aviva did not survive, and she did not make it. We have lived and are still living through every parent's worst nightmare. Certainly the hardest time of my life, my wife's life, and really living through that tragic event of losing my daughter has changed me for the better in so many different ways. Although I would give everything up happily to have my daughter back. So within the first couple of days after she died, and actually really the last time I got to hold her in the hospital, before he took her off life support, I told her, Daddy's going to make you proud. Daddy's going to share your light, your life, your joy, and the love that she had for us, for so many different people, with the world. And in those first few days and weeks, I was just thinking, how can I create a legacy for my daughter? How could I, share her story with the world in a creative medium, to allow other children to meet her, to be inspired by her, and maybe learn a thing or two, from along the way in a fun manner. And so naturally, things kind of came together, and I said, I'm going to write a children's book, and started writing. It didn't take too long. It took about 10 days actually to write the script for this book. During that intense grief, a lot of times creative juices start to flow, singing, writing, different things. And so this particular story, and I can tell you about it, but it's really about this orangutan that uses her inner strengths, which is singing and dancing and charming her way with her friends in the jungle, to really conquer her fears and her challenges that she faces along the way, ultimately saving the day for her community, by retrieving these bananas from this fearsome tiger, which I won't give away the ending, but
I was going to say, I'm looking at a picture of the tiger right now, and he doesn't look so fearsome. So I can only predict where this is going.
he was fearsome, and then he met Aviva, and Aviva kind of charmed him over. So yeah, it's a really creative way to kind of talk about, using your inner strengths, whether you think you have a special talent or not. A lot of times when we come across these hurdles in our life, maybe you're facing a bully, or maybe you can't, you're not doing well in school, or whatever it is. There's some inner strengths that each and every one of us possesses, and making sure that we're staying true to ourselves is really the ultimate objective for the underlying message of the book.
Fantastic. Wow. And so Hans, tell me, so you wrote this book through your stages of grief, going through the grief. And when did the book come out? When was it released?
Yeah, so Aviva passed in November of 2020, and the book actually was released in October of 2021. So just about 11 months after, and it was truly a labor of love. It was something I poured my heart into, and found a really good team of individuals, illustrators and editors, to really help me through the process as well. And yeah, it's been fantastic. The first month or so, it became a Amazon bestseller.
Awesome.
It's got a lot of great reviews, and a lot of different review sites have posted great things about it. But for me, it just brings joy to even just talk about it, just doing this, or going into schools, whether physically or virtually, and really sharing the story with children, because that to me brings Aviva to life, and seeing them smile and seeing them dance, which often is the case, just brings Aviva, closer to me. And I know that she, lives through the book, she lives through them. And it's,
I can hear some living siblings in the background who are very joyful and happy as well.
Yes.
Tell me, Hans, as far as, so first of all, you wrote this book, you went through this during the pandemic as well. So not only were we in these uncertain times, but your family went through this tragedy, and somehow you got this book to come out in 11 months. That is, first of all, amazing and wonderful. And so the book came out in October 2021. And we know that releasing a book is one thing, but really getting people to learn about the book, to hear about the book, to really get that visibility is the next level, the next step. It's really leveling up. And I heard you talk about school visits and talking to schools. So what are some ways that you've been marketing the book? Because it sounds like our team heard about the book. So tell me, what are some ways that you are marketing and getting the message of the book out there so people can read?
Yeah, well, you really hit the nail on the head. It's the hardest part of the whole process is really getting the book out there into the world. And my goal is really to reach as many children and parents as possible, and really learning how to do that from the ground up. Obviously, I don't have a background in authorship, and so I've really just kind of poured myself into it. Asking tons of people. I've joined different groups, different online groups, Facebook groups. Reaching out, just even what I would say guerrilla marketing tactics, even getting out to schools and getting out to local bookstores. Just did my very first local bookstore author signing last weekend, which is really fun to see people in person and talk about the book. But then
Let's go back. Can I interrupt you real quick? I've
Sure.
never heard of the term guerrilla marketing efforts. Can you go back to that and tell me what do you mean by that?
Yeah, I guess, just being really scrappy,
Okay.
just really being scrappy and resourceful, and trying to figure out, who's my target audience.
Mhm.
Usually it's parents, actually. So, children, obviously this book is geared towards children 2 to 8 years old. But really parents, and what I've actually learned, grandmothers. Grandmothers have a very soft spot in their heart for grief in general. Grief is something that society doesn't necessarily know much about or know how to talk about, is very uncomfortable with. But I think grandmothers and grandfathers, they've lived through a lot, and they kind of know things a little bit more. So they've been a big supporter of the book. And then just finding, where they hang out online is, on different blogs, so mommy blogs or podcasts, or even some Amazon marketing, which is a really tough nut to crack. But in terms of just reaching out to different email lists, teachers as well, it's really just pounding the pavement, I would say. And for me, it's nothing about me. It's no ego involved in this. This is just purely for sharing my daughter and being able to talk about her, and that's all I want for my daughter. So yeah. So if you do read the book, it's a very heartfelt tribute to my daughter.
And it's a beautiful legacy for her. And not only do you have this book that you're selling, not only do you have this book that is going out into the world, but if you go to your website, Hans, I did see that I believe that Open Dreams, I think you created Open Dreams several years ago. So tell us a little bit about Open Dreams, because your passion doesn't lie just in the legacy for your daughter, but your passion really is for people. And I think that's what's very authentic when speaking to you. So tell us a little bit about Open Dreams.
Yeah, well, first of all, I would have to kind of go back to saying, what I believe is a well-lived life is where, you create a positive impact for, just one person. And if I can do that, that would be a life well lived. And so Open Dreams is an education nonprofit, which is called a college access organization, basically helping high achieving, low income students gain access into universities, but more importantly, full scholarships through a mentorship network, through allowing mentors and mentees to connect and go through that really arduous process of SATs and English language test, and then applying, writing essays and et cetera. That was an organization that I founded with a co-founder from Cameroon in Africa, as well as my now wife, before she was just a friend. And we really ended up, really creating this organization that's helped over 200 students get access to full scholarships across the world. We have students in about 20 different countries around the world. And so we really, this is something that's very near and dear to my heart, and it just brings me a lot of joy, seeing these kids achieve. And so naturally, when we're thinking about, creating a legacy with Aviva, there's a lot of different facets to it, but we thought, women in science has always been underfunded. We are big believers in having equality of opportunity. And given that Aviva never really had a diagnosis, we saw tons of doctors, even her autopsy didn't reveal anything odd or any diagnosis. We believe that maybe there's research that can be done. not particularly for her condition, but just for health in general. And so we started the Aviva Women in Science Scholarship Fund that provides funding for different scholarships. So local medical schools there, as well as research grants, as well as community health partnerships, where we're just, helping the community in general. And for that, we Open Dreams, that the mentees and alumni have actually started an Aviva Day there in Cameroon, where they actually visit neonatal units, so maternity and neonatal units, so these babies that are undergoing a lot of significant stress at a very early age, and bringing joy to them during the holiday season and Christmas.
What is the Aviva Day?
Yeah, Aviva Day it's amazing. It was something that was definitely not my idea. Definitely, something.
Is it a certain day of the year?
Yeah, it's around December 15th, more or less. So it's kind of a couple Saturdays before.
Beautiful.
Christmas.
That's beautiful.
Yeah.
That's really wonderful. This has been such an eye-opening interview, and I think that when a book is backed, created, and supported by passion, love, and joy, I think that it's very organic to market it and to really get it out into your audience. And so I commend you for taking a tragic situation and turning it into something that can be a lesson learned for others and something that can be celebrated. This book can be celebrated by others. So I thank you. We will link to all these good things like your social media handles, your website, and link to purchase the book in the show notes. And I just wanted to thank you for coming on today. And I wrote down something that you had said, a life well lived is creating a positive impact for one person. And you've done that for so many people. And so I hope that, we appreciate you and we thank you, and we really appreciated having you on today.
Thank you, Maria. It's a joy and pleasure to be on your show. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Cardinal Rule Press offers a variety of support to authors, booksellers, librarians, and families. Find out more at cardinalrulepress.com.